thank you for the day. Thank you for the beautiful weather. Thank you for kind mercies to bring us here. Pray you would bless this meeting, help us to have open and receptive hearts, and make this county the beacon that you want it to be. All these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With the Georgia EPD, the ag permitting unit here in Tipton. I'm just going to kind of go over some of the permitting processes. I'm not sure if anybody here owns any farmland, operates any farmland, but I'm going to kind of go step by step over how exactly we evaluate it, how we approve or deny an application, what kind of evaluation we do, and just how much it goes through. I know that for a lot of people, we hear a lot of concerns, is how I'll put it, about the timeline it takes to get a permit, and just kind of explain why, just how many hands it has to go through, and how many evaluations we do to make sure that everybody's getting their fair share of water. So for groundwater permits, anything that's using over 69 gallons per minute or 100,000 gallons a day or more is going to need a permit by law. And that includes any systems that might be tied in together. So you have two smaller wells and pull a certain amount. If those systems are pulled together to feed in the irrigation or dump into a pond, that's still going to need a permit, even though the two wells individually don't meet that threshold. The same is going to go for surface water permits. The difference is it's going to be 100,000 gallons per day on a monthly average instead of on an annual average, but it's still that 69 gallon per minute threshold. We also do permits for well pond systems where you have a well dumping into a pond with the surface water pulling out. The well can also pump directly to irrigation. It doesn't have to be strictly a dump well, but that would also need to be permitted if it meets that threshold. So this is kind of a review of what permits we currently have in the state. As you can see, it's mainly in the lower half of Georgia and very well concentrated in the southwest portion of Georgia. Currently, we have over 26,000 permitted sources and plenty more that are not permitted. The types of withdrawals that we mess with are going to be new or existing wells, new existing surface water sources. We also do replacement well permits. You can also do transfers, like if you buy a farm of land or sell a farm of land, transfer of ownership, modification if you need to add acreage, if you need other UPMs. And then most recently we started doing the frost and freeze protection wells. Those are the only type of Florida wells you'll be able to get in that Flint River Basin right now. Is if it's for frost and freeze protection only, and that comes with a lot of conditions, meaning like the types of sources you can use, how many gallons per minute you can use, and what months of the year you're able to use that. If you need to fill out an application, you can either come to our office in Tipton, you can find them online, you can go to UGA County Extension Agent, they have the permits, or the applications for permits. If you need to submit them, do it in mail, hand them off, email them, fax them, carrier pigeon, I mean, we accept them. So once we get your application, we're going to review it, make sure you're not in an area that is suspended and that you're not asking for a well that's going to be suspended. Once we look over all of that, you're going to get a letter of concurrence. So that letter of concurrence is going to be good for 1 year. This is what you're going to give your driller before they drill your well. If your driller, or if you're talking to the driller, he says, oh, we don't need one of those, don't use that guy. I'm telling you right now, that's not a gentleman you want to do business with. You need to have this letter in order to drill that well install a surface water pump. It's going to go into the special conditions like the depth, the UPM we allow, etc. And we strongly encourage you to get a contract with whatever irrigation company, drilling company, whatever that you're doing business with, because we see it time and time again where you're better protected, and EPD, our unit will, in fact, take care of that. We can revoke a person's license, we can take out their bonds, all this kind of stuff. We help protect you in that, but we cannot help protect you if you do not have that contract. So once the letter of concurrence has been issued, you're going to have your either surface water or well installed. If an inspection is required, like if you're in an area where the Clayton Aquifer is present, the Clayton Aquifer is restricted in the entire state, not just in the southwest like how Florida is. The entire state, you cannot be in that Clayton Aquifer. So if you have a Clayton Aquifer present where you want to put your source, we may have to come out there and actually scope that well to make sure that you didn't go down into that Clayton Aquifer. And then this is about the time, once you get that installed, that you're going to start submitting all your forms for your meter, your forms showing that you're doing the best water management practices, etc. That's all outlined on that first letter that we give you. Once we get all that, we're going to go through and a permit map will be created. This is also where we're going to do our second evaluation, making sure that you're not pulling too much water from your neighbors, that you're leaving enough water for everybody else, you're within a certain amount of aquifer, etc. And if everything was done correctly, we have all the forms from you, this is when we'll go ahead and wrap that permit up to the director in Atlanta to be signed, and then he'll return it to us. In that permit, you're going to have the person who actually owns the land. So if you're a tenant leasing this farm property, this permit's not going to be in your name, even though you're the one operating. It's going to be going into the landowner's name. It's also going to tell you what your maximum rate is, what the depth of your well is, or what the source, if you're on a pond or a stream, if you're using surface water. It's just going to kind of detail all that information. And we keep these forever. So if you've got a permit on your property, or you want to know if your property is permitted, so you have a source on there, you're like, man, I don't know, because we just bought this 10 years ago. I don't know if we're actually going to use this. Reach out to us, we can find out for you. We've got maps of this stuff, we have paper files galore, we've got a whole database, we can find out for you. So this is our source switching project. This is the latest thing that we just started doing. It's a 5-year project, it's a grant we got federally and state. And it's basically anyone who has a surface water source, they're not being able to pull enough water, they're having trouble, they can't afford a well. We are paying for a well to be put in for you. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to have certain conditions for using this. You're not just going to get a free well, get to use it whenever, however you want, for whatever source you want. There's an application, there's a process for it. But essentially, what we're trying to do is help the flow of the surface water in that Flint River basin. We're trying to help not go through another lawsuit with Florida. So there's a select amount of people. Currently we have, I think it's 240 something that we're looking to install all throughout the state, but mainly in that southwest region. And people are going to be able to use their surface water, and once we start getting into a drought, they can switch over and use that well. And like I said, completely paid for. So if this is something that someone here would be interested in, please let us know, please reach out. We've already started drilling them. We just inspected 2 just this past week. And they're pulling a great deal of water, and it's going to be very helpful for some of these people who are dealing with, not being able to get a permit because of the suspension area and dealing with droughts and low flows. If this is something that interests you, please reach out so we can get that application in and get on the list. Then we've got the suspension modification. This is something that we are hopefully able to, hopefully it'll please quite a few people, is how I'll put it. So, just this past September, we started that false freeze protection, like I spoke about, where you have certain conditions. You can only use it during certain months, and it's only for the frost and freeze protection of blueberries, citrus, whatever other crops you have. And then this past January, we lifted the surface water suspension, and a very small little portion here, you'll see over by like Mitchell and Ward, and a little bit into Brady. But we lifted the surface water suspension just in that area because that's not actually the Flint River Basin. And then we are having some announcement made in November of this year. I have no idea what that announcement will be. They don't really keep us privy to that. It's all higher ups. But from what we've discussed, there is a somewhat possibility that the suspension in the southwest area in that Flint River Basin may be lifted with conditions. So you may be able to install a flooring well, you may be able to not have to dig so deep, not have to pay so much. There may be some lifting of the surface water, but with that, we're probably going to be looking at volumetric permits. So instead of going by acreage, we're just going to go by how much water you can use. Like I say, you can use 1.2 million gallons for the year, and once you've reached that, water is being cut off. You can't use any more. We can also talk about the possibility of we're doing drought conditions. You can use it as much as you want for as many acres as you want, but if we're in a drought period, you can't use it any longer. With that, we're going to put on telemetry devices that are basically telling us what your flow is when you're using your water, and that's live information. So we go into a database, and so that way we can see if people aren't in compliance with those conditions. So if you're got any sort of agricultural property or know someone who does, let them know to be keeping an eye out this coming November, because there's going to be some sort of big announcement, and it's going to be interesting. We're going to see how that works out for us, because not really trying to get into another lawsuit with Florida. We won by the skin of our teeth this past time. There's no telling what's going to happen next time. We're not trying to make a lift and then end up having to double down because we lose a lawsuit. But that's kind of really the only updates I have as far as what will be coming up here in the near future. I do also have business cards. If anybody would like one, I'll put them up here at the end. Y'all come by and grab them. It's got my direct line. It's also got the office line. So if anybody has any questions, you can call me, you can email, visit our website. I highly recommend visiting our website. If you've never been on there, it's got news releases. It's got information about grillers. If anybody here has a home well that they're looking to replace, we don't actually regulate home wells at this moment in time, but we do regulate the grillers. So if you're having an issue with your griller for your home well, please let us, even your pump contractor, if you have someone coming out to replace part of your pump or something like that, please let us know. You get 2 years to make a complaint for us to be able to do something about it. And once that 2 years is up, our hands are kind of tied, and we're trying to get basically all the bad actors out of the field that we can, because we're running into a few problems right now with looking at actually trying to file an injunction against a certain driller because of him not doing what he's saying he's doing and basically just taking people's money. So if you ever have an issue, please do not hesitate to call us, even if you think it's silly or, oh, I don't have a contract, it doesn't matter. Please reach out, and like I said, you got that 2 years. So if even something's happened in the past, reach out to us, let us help you. That's what we're here for. Does anybody have any questions about anything?
What does surface water include? Is that ponds or just lakes, reservoirs?
Ponds, lakes,
on private
streams,
property?
dams.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
So
anything used for agriculture.
So if a farmer needed to, from time to time, they do tend to drain the ponds for maintenance or whatever they're having issues. How would they go about doing that? Do they have to apply for a permit, notify y'all that they're going to pump out the water in the pond, or?
If you're pumping out the water to feed it to an irrigation system or to feed it to, or to, plumb it to your livestock or something like that, that is something we need to know about.
Okay.
If you're just pumping it out strictly just to drain it to, clean out the pond or make repairs or something like that, we don't care about that.
Okay. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do anything, we do athletic fields, we do golf courses, we do irrigation for crops, we do livestock or poultry watering, so anything that falls into that category would fall under our regulation.
So does the companies that do the drilling, do they have to get a special permit or EPD certification from you?
Yes.
So we can ask for that as a consumer.
Mm-hmm.
That would help validate who they are.
Yes.
They have that.
And that's actually on our website as well. There is, we have a list, and you can go through and search to see if they have their license and bond, if they're considered active. Does anybody have any questions?
Y'all have a program providing, help to build surface water ponds?
I'm sorry?
Do y'all have a program to help assist farmers to build surface water ponds?
We do not, but if you check out the NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation, a lot of times they have a lot of different programs to help with, they get a lot of different funds and grants that they can give to farmers, as far as, installing irrigation systems, building ponds. But they have a whole team that's dedicated towards helping people learn, how much volume you need in a pond, what depth, what area to avoid, because, it could be wetland. But they've got a whole program dedicated to that, to building ponds.
So y'all not associated with that until we get the pond built, and then y'all will come in if we're gonna plan on irrigating?
Correct. Yeah, we don't regulate ponds. Does anybody else have anything? Alright, move on to the next one.
If you'll go into a little bit about what happened with the point reservation and why getting permits in our area will help prevent any loss of water rights in our area if we have one.
So, I'm sorry, yes?
Well, something I'm thinking about. You talking about the landlord would be the one that the system would put in his name.
Yes.
If the man renting the farm misappropriates what they should be doing on that place, who's gonna be held liable?
It would be on the landowner. Yeah, whoever's name it says, who would be held liable.
I have a question on the, you said that the permits are kept on file in the event of an inheritance. Would the name on the permit be transferred to the person that inherited the property?
Yes.
How would you do that?
So that's something you'll have to submit to us. We have, like I said, we've got the applications on our website. You can go to the county extension office, you can go to our office, and the application is very simple. You're basically going to fill out your contact information. You'll put in your permit number. If you don't know the permit number, you can just describe it to us. We'll look it up and find it for you. And you sign off. And there may sometimes be forms that you have to turn in, but usually with transfers, it's as simple as, here's the updated contact information. We look at it and go, okay, that matches up. And then we put it in your name.
Okay, thank you.
So the whole reason we even got the Flint River Basin Conservation Plan in 2006, when we started that with that moratorium, and then the even stricter suspension area in 2012, was because we were realizing that the water flowing down into Florida, we were using a little much, but our number one industry here in Georgia is agriculture, and that requires a lot of water, especially with this heat. So basically, we just tried to make it to where we were making sure there was enough water to go around. And at the time, when we first started permitting in 1988, there was no real evaluation system for it. It was, oh, you want a permit? Tell us how much, estimate what your well's going to be, here you go, here's your permit. Nowadays, we've got all sorts of hydrological evaluations, we've got all lithologic evaluations that we go through, and we look at the drawdown for your neighbors, all that kind of stuff. So that moratorium in place is basically to protect everybody's water. I know it seems kind of counterintuitive if we're restricting how much water you can use or where you can use it, but we're doing it so everybody gets a fair cut. Things are always changing. I can't say that this area itself will never go under a moratorium or suspension. So if you are looking at trying to irrigate or buy some farmland or rent out some farmland in the near future, there is never going to be a better time to put in your application. It will never be easier than it is right this moment in time. So it's always better to do it while you can, because things can change in an instant, as we've seen with moratorium, suspension, losing of things, bringing them back down. So it's always better to do it sooner rather than later, because you never know what's going to happen.
Is there an annual fee for those applications to keep
There's
on the
no
current?
for the applications.
Okay.
hours.
Oh, yeah.
But they have other officers over there. My understanding is we only have 4 in our area.
You can get a little bit, the clay boring, I mean, if you're on Cretaceous, you're looking at, going anywhere between 600 to 800 feet deep.
But
But,
you can't access those ones here.
yeah.
But they will be even more expensive here than ever in the winter. So the worry, which, Edward Brooks is your
Yeah, my direct supervisor.
he came and spoke to me at ABAC for my class 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he told me that it was basically next time we had a drought in our area, Florida was probably going to bring up another lawsuit, and that we were going to get more restriction on us. It wasn't going to come from Atlanta, it's going to come comparable amounts of water out of the river basin, the agriculture runs. It was going to come out of agriculture. And since the Flint River is already restricted, it's probably going to come to our rivers. And it's not really an if, but a when. And he expected the next drought. And I think
How many applicants do we have in Georgia?
I'm sorry?
How many applicants do we have in Georgia?
You've got Surficial, you've got Florida, you've got Clayton, the Miocene, which is really more part of Florida. You've got the Gordon, and you've got the Cretaceous. So depending on the area you're in, because, the layers thicken and thin, as they move. But, here you go. Not sure if you can see that, but, and a lot of these are kind of overlapping as far as the time periods. That's how I would describe them.
this gray area is basically there's no water, is my understanding. And then you get down this easy to access, quickly replenishing water is Florida, and that's what's getting restricted. You have to go even deeper, and it's more expensive. You don't want to get down a big farm after you start. More expensive to get to than less expensive. But
Yeah, because of that, you're basically going into pockets of clay versus limestone or sandstone like you would be in the Florida aquifer.
And that's what this slide is talking about. As you can see, this is what the water, this is what the soil profile is like in the Florida aquifer. You can imagine pulling water out of that. It's not going to be so hard because the pores are large. But when you're trying to pull water out of clay, you got to pull a lot more of that pump, and you're not going to get as much water as quickly. So that's what this is showing. Imagine pulling a drinking straw and trying to pull water out of that. It's going to be a lot harder than pulling it out of this. But this shows these red areas are higher drought severity levels. You could easily see that we're due for another drought. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I'd say so.
So the worry that I got from Mr. Edward Brooks was we are very due for a drought, which would cause another lawsuit, which would cause moratorium was such low flow of Flint that it wasn't getting to the Apalachicola and started killing those oysters.
Yeah, because the water stays colder the higher the water level is. You're not getting that sun beating down on them. They got the protection of the deep water. And so as you use up more water, that water level goes down, the water heats up, and they're not getting enough oxygen from the fast rate of flow.
Well, those are third oysters. My family also came from Bay.
Focus is on the bay,
Okay, yeah.
but that basically just caused a whole investigation into all of it.
And you can see on this graph that Spring Creek pretty regularly goes to zero, but it basically had no flow for 2 years. It was so low during that period that it didn't go data. And here's the alcohol. You see it can go to zero sometimes. And of course, that's the basin we're in right now, because the river's right there. And this upper part of the Swanee Basin, this is all the alcohol basin. This over here is the Little River that flows to Tipton? But the Little River flows to the alcohol, and then they all flow into the Swanee. About a quarter ago, I got this slide set from him. He told me that he believes that the Swanee River Basin in South Central Georgia would be experiencing more restrictions on quality than quantity, but the quantity would come up. That compared to the Flint River, we're going to be experiencing more quality. Now, I don't know if you could expand on that, because I don't know if I could really explain why, from what I gathered from him.
As far as like how we restrict quantity first.
Well, I think that's pretty clear. There's currently no quality restrictions.
Correct.
But why in South Central Georgia quality be the first, or not the first thing to get restricted, but the first area in Georgia to get a quality restriction?
Just because of the amount of clay content that we have, it's harder to get better quality water, and then also just thinking about the population in South Central Georgia. When you're in Southwest Georgia, obviously there's going to be some smaller towns. Here you got bigger cities, you got Valdosta, you got Tipton, you start going up a little higher, then you start getting to Macon and those areas. And so a lot of that has an impact on, you got more residential wells, you got more septic, you got more hazardous sites like landfills and things like that. And
More
so,
to be washed down. And that would be surface water quality. And that would be where Florida is coming from, restricting us in a lawsuit. The possibility of Georgia. This map is from dated back to 2008, showing where certificates were documented at the time. Of course, back then it wasn't total data, but it's even more now. This shows a little bit in the permitting process, but we've been through most of that already.
what kind of water is available in that area and how thick or thin the aquifer layers are. So it is starting to solve those monitoring wells. So over the next couple of years, we'll hopefully start having a lot more data available and a lot more accurate data available as we keep continuously monitoring those.
And if theoretically, this little area in Earlville was an unknown recharge area, recharge areas are more likely to get restricted to protect the water flow down off. So there's another risk for our area, is we are likely an undocumented recharge area that is important to keep the aquifer levels high for the rest of aquifer. This is showing the basins where this area was the water war with Florida and Georgia, and this was an old one with Alabama as well. That goes back to the 90s. This shows where the Apalachicola got low back in 2012. More data showing why the lawsuit got, and this is what I showed earlier about Florida's lawsuit that has already been described to some degree. And you see here that we've got a special master that was from Massachusetts making this decision on Georgia and Florida, which the idea is that they are unbiased, but what really came down to the city being the drawdown of the water levels versus agriculture. City's obviously going to get a little preference from somebody up in a very urban area, where agriculture is so minor in the area, it's going to get obviously on the side. At least that was some of what I understood from how Edward described it, how Dr. Porter described it. This shows that Georgia won the case. I'm not sure what the implications would have been if we lost the case, but we still ended up with a lot of restrictions, even though we won. What are some of those things that could have happened?
I don't even know what we would have done, because with how prevalent the agriculture industry is here, I mean, I don't know how we could have restricted anything more without having serious economic drawbacks.
It probably would have gone in other sectors like industrial or if we lost. Would that be right?
That would be preferred, at least for me.
Because you can't really do much more for taking water away from Georgia agriculture as one of the where they're living.
It's kind of like Florida not do that.
You know, you go to the Supreme Court, they're very, careful, mindful on state constitutional rights. So water falls under a constitutional right of the state. So they have to be very careful how they tell one state how to conserve water and allow another state to benefit from it. So that's one of the big challenges with the Supreme Court is they're just not, it could come back as the court gets more liberal or whatever. They certainly could come back in the years in the future and rule in favor of Florida.
I would not be surprised if we ended up going through another lawsuit.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna word it differently.
Even if we had a conservative court, say.
Yeah, well, that's true too, because
I had a conservative court one side of Florida.
I think too, as the judges look upon this, they see it's a reoccurring issue. So it does appear that Georgia may not be acting in good faith.
Well, and
That's a good neighbor to Florida.
that's why we really upped, some of the compliance work that we've been doing as far as agricultural permits. We started out a dedicated compliance enforcement team in, I can think of the year 2022. We have a dedicated compliance enforcement team now, so people who are not following the letter of the law, just having their wells or surface water sources installed illegally, people who process. They're using what they're permitted for, they're staying within the letter of the law, and here you are using more than you have, or not even applying for it, just installing it, and this is the reason that the people who are following the letter of the law and are actually part of the agricultural industry and participating in the community and participating towards our economic status, our local economics, you know, you're the reason that we're gonna get cut off, and so we're trying to really make sure that people who are acting in good faith are being rewarded for that.
But what are the consequences? I mean, I hear you saying this, but I'm getting here, how is a person penalized if they're doing, if they did it illegally or more than what they're supposed to?
So the levels we have for enforcement are, we have, what we call a request for information. This is kind of our nice, hey, we noticed this, we think you may be out of compliance, you know, are you willing to talk with us and kind of explain what's going on? Because sometimes you could be mistaken, you know, sometimes people have to replace their wells, they don't tell us, and so we're thinking this is a new source, and the fact is, all they did was abandon their old well. So we try and start with, you know, a nice way of saying, hey, just talk to us, explain to us what's going on. From there, if we don't get a response, which happens quite a bit, or we get, you know, an answer that's basically like, I don't care, I'm not talking to y'all, then it goes to a notice of violation. Notice of violation is saying, hey, this is now an actual compliance case, we will be investigating, this is going to go up to some of our higher ups as, hey, this person's out of compliance, so you either need to get with it, or this is going to escalate. And if it has to escalate, it goes to a consent order. Now, a consent order is something that comes with high penalties. It comes with fines. So we basically base those fines off of how long you've had this source, how many acres you've been watering, how much water you think you've been using, and we base it off of currently a 3-year average. And so you can look at fines up to $300,000. So, yeah, and that's depending on, again, how many acres, you know, all this kind of information that we have for you. Now, if that ends up saying, you know what, I still don't care, I'm not paying this fine, what do y'all want to do about it? We have an administrative order. An administrative order is, you're going to court. You're going to court, the judge is going to rule, and not only then are you going to owe us fines, but you're going to owe us fines. You may be looking at potential injunctions, jail time, you know, whatever else the judge sees fit, and you're still going to have to abandon that source that you have. So, if you get a letter like this in the mail, just take care of it. Work with us, we're willing to work with you, but there are escalations. It can happen. You can face fines. If you still ignore an administrative order from the judge, you are looking at potential jail time.
So this would apply even if you're pulling water out of your own pond to irrigate?
If that pond is not connected to a stream, creek, river, any other water source in any fashion, we don't care about it. You can have it. I mean, we obviously need to permit it, but that does not apply towards the restriction.
But 99% of them around here do flow into a river, and that does eventually get the whole thing.
Who is responsible for those fines? The landowner or the producer?
It'd be the landowner, whoever has the permit in their name, and if it's not a permitted source, it would still be whoever owns the land. So that's why if you lease out your land, it's very important to stay on top of whoever's operating or managing your farmland, making sure they're doing things correctly. Because even if you're trusting them to do all the paperwork for you since they're the one operating, just understand that liability comes back onto whoever's property it actually is.
But all of that can be avoided by getting what I understand to be a cost-free permit.
Yeah, the applications are free. There's no cost. The only cost that you're looking at is for your actual irrigation setup. You're going to pay for your meter, you're going to pay for your pivots or your drip lines or whatever, but there's no cost as far as, you know, for the forms, to put in the application, to have the evaluations done. There's no cost associated with that.
And from what I understand from my conversation with Edward, very, very rarely is a request to get a permit denied.
Yeah, we try and do everything we can. Say you requested a rate of 1,500 gallons per minute for your withdrawal, and we've done our evaluations every which way, and we just can't make it work. We'll play around with the numbers and find what numbers are for you. Say we realize 1,500 tell you what rate we can have if you're heck bent on that spot exactly.
Are there any other questions on this topic?
How important is surface water to contribute to the aquifer?
That's, I mean, surface water is what ends up, that you have, so it's, I'm assuming you heard of the water cycle. You know, things get onto the ground, go into the ground, get into the aquifers come up through springs, which then feed into creeks, and so on. So that's why it's so difficult for us to be able to find a way to restrict while making it easier for people to still have access to water, but showing Florida that we're making a good faith effort to try and not use quite so much, because if we restrict surface waters and let people have a free for all of the aquifers, well, you're still pulling water that is needed to replenish that water cycle. But if then you restrict aquifers and let people have a free for all of the surface water, you're still having the same thing where you're pulling from that water cycle in an uneven manner, and you're still going to run out of water.
In those recharge areas, if you pull from one, you're pulling from both.
So you say it is important to have surface water to recharge
Yes.
as far as pond?
Like in Crystal Lake, when we have a drought and the aquifer goes low, that pond drains, or the lake drains, because it's connected to springs, and there's springs all up and down the river. So every time there's a drop in the aquifer level, the river goes down, because it's flowing down the aquifer in those recharge areas. Everywhere where there's caves and limestone pathways for the flow river. But it will always percolate. It's kind of like when you watch a field after rain, a lot of it's going to go to runoff, and that's what ends up going directly into the ocean. But a lot of it goes down in the soil, and that's where it is going.
By the way, is Crystal Lake down in the
Some, but not as much. What I believe happened there, and what I've heard, is that one of their sources to the aquifer, one of the springs that connects to the aquifer, was closed by heavy machinery, so that kind of lowered the pressure on the aquifer back up. So it's all these connections with pressure, water levels that the lake may never look again, because you've seen on that Tiffin chart that the aquifer is slowly going down. So the aquifer is too low to ever put water back in the lake. Naturally. And if you try to put water in it, pump the water into it, it will flow right back into that aquifer. So you basically have to line the lake and pump into it to get back to it.
Like Coleman Pond, and it's still go down like it always did?
I'm not sure, but I'm sure it would be pretty much the same story. Is there any other questions on this topic, and we can move on to the next? Well, let's give Susie a hand.
Thanks y'all for having me.
Thank you.
Have a productive meeting. This is definitely the biggest turnout I've actually ever seen. For something like this, that applies to y'all for actually caring about your community and doing something to it. I'll leave my business cards up here if y'all need them. If not, I'll leave them very happy to know.
So we can call you then about the free wells, to talk with you then, okay?
Yep, absolutely. And if you ever have issues with a driller or a pump contractor, give us a call. I'll refer you to Jacob. He's our guy that deals with the bonds and the licenses for them.
Okay.
But I hope y'all have a good rest of your meeting. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Boy, you want to come? Any other questions here for a second?
How's everybody today?
Good.
Everybody doing good? I guess I'll keep it more than anything. Does anybody have any questions? I guess everybody knows me. My name's William Roberts. I'm looking for state representative. I'm a farmer. I'll give you a little brief rundown. 23 years old, farmer. Let me just go up there and really just help our communities. We have a lot of smaller communities that are in the district, and they're going through that had. And I just think there's some protections that government could do and some protections the government could get out of as far as regulation. And just like what she just gave spill on, some of that's pretty scary. You know, somebody can come in here and say we could have irrigated farmland at some point in the future. And all that comes back to just people disagreeing with each other and taking it from there. So does anybody have any questions?
How's the campaign going? You get a good reception, where do you go?
Yeah, relatively. There's a lot of people that just don't know any of the candidates. And there was actually a person in the incumbent's from Turner County. His name's Clay Purple, and I was over there campaigning. I just assumed them to be abreast on just who they're elected officials are, and I'm like, yeah, I'm running for Clay Purple's seat. And they said, who is he? What does he do? And he's over there, and I'm like, well, what are you running for? And I just explained everything. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I'll vote for you. There's some cards. So there's just a lot of people that were kind of like us before all this came around, and they just kind of kicked their feet up and were like, well, people that I'm putting in there is doing what I want. And sometimes that's not the case, and a lot of the times it's because we don't even know who's doing the job that we voted for every 4 years or 2 years. And I think there's some accountability issues with that. I think that, and if elected, I'd like to do just events like this every 6 months or, a year. Really every 3 months would be good, but you have to work around legislative sessions. It's just to get out in the public and get the interests that they need handled. And just really, we need somebody that legislates off of what the citizens want and what the citizens need, and not off of special interests and lobbyist checks is what we need. We see a lot of that going on now. I don't agree with that. What I call rhino Republicans in name only. Because the Republicans, when they're on the ballot, then they get out there and it's, well, whoever's got the biggest checks, well, the way I'm voting on that.
Nailed it.
Yep, and we see a lot of that. From the top all the way to the bottom up there. And I'm not going to name names or anything, but I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Ain't got to name no names.
Yeah, they're bringing in things that are harming just working class people. And that's who I really want to serve. And that's the vast majority of people, but some people get blinded by party ideology and what's around the news, and they think that figureheads are who's really behind them. And a lot of times it turns out they're not. So,
what are the three biggest concerns would you say that you've been hearing out of
economy is definitely number one. And just how rough things have been the last couple of years. And I agree with Governor Kemp when he took away the gas tax. But now that's been re-implemented, and I don't really know if it should have been. I think that should have been something that was visited, because that put a pretty big burden on just people. Just everything you use gas for, you got to work, you get groceries, and that's one of the family's number one expenses are groceries and gas. And so implement a tax back on that, I don't really agree with that. Should there be a tax there? Maybe so, but not to the scale that it is now. Around 30 cents a gallon. And that's a pretty big chunk of money. I believe that there's some things that need to be looked at in the tax code as well. I just believe in fiscal conservatism, and that's what I've got from a lot of people. They want, kind of like Ronald Reagan said, they want the government to get off their back and out of their pocket. And that's really what they want. And that's what I've got. And there's a lot of things that are coming to our small communities that, we couldn't have thought twice about, and it's coming from government mandates and executive orders from, just say, the Biden administration, and then just say the solar stuff. Well, that's coming in off of Obama mandates. Long before that, the Great New Deal opened up a good bit before that to come on down and trickle down to the Actually, big debate, yeah, that was a big debate at the time. Yeah, by strong fact, so that's pretty funny. But any other questions?
William,
Yes,
I will mention something here that's a concern for our county that people are not aware of.
Yeah.
I live a mile and a half from here. If I sit in our recliner at home and order something on Amazon and they charge me taxes, my taxes go to Turner County because I have my method address.
How about that?
Irwin County, last time I looked, it may have changed 2 years. Last time I looked, 25.5% of our population of Irwin County has an out-of-county mailing
Yeah.
address. So if you sit at home, now if I live right here and order that same thing, then the taxes, this is Osceola address, so it'll come to Irwin County. So, right here, we've got Turner, we've got Fitzgerald, we've got Chula, we've got Tiff,
Rebecca.
we've got Douglas, wherever they're, Coffee County.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that live on Jackson Road right here, they all have pictures of that.
So I realized this at the beginning of 2020 when I needed a freezer, and you couldn't find freezers.
Yeah.
Well, I looked, and Lowe's had one. So I bought that sucker, sitting in my recliner in the house. And when I went and picked it up, it said, Turner County.
How about that?
What in the world? And I was not aware of it. So, now, there's precedence with having the taxes come back to the county with car purchases. Because if I go wherever and purchase a car, that tax does come back to the county. But we have a USPS decision that's affecting us tax-wise. And like I said, I bought thousands and thousands of dollars of stuff online.
Yeah, everybody has.
Since 2020. I mean, I have literally house, plumbers, all kinds of stuff. I mean, just thousands of dollars. And that's taxes that we've missed for our county. So, and I mentioned that to a prior senator and a current representative. Yeah, I'm still paying those taxes, but I don't know that you could do that because Turner County's not going to want that to happen.
And that's
Atlanta's not going to want that to happen.
Yeah, and that's almost a federal purview because it comes back to the post office, so I don't know a state representative could even.
But it could easily be fixed with just a zip plus 4.
Yeah.
If that was what it went down to see where my taxes. But I hope that'd be a cause you study and champion. If you
I mean, I believe any dollar you spend within the county to stay in the county.
And our county would definitely benefit because we don't have, and I have to get a personal law because we don't have some of those things in our.
Yeah. And another thing, there's a lot of people that have jobs outside of the county, and when you go grocery shopping, that's most of the time, at the end of the day, when you get off work, you just say somebody's working in Tipton, they go to Publix, and then they come home, so I know we have a limited selection here, but there's another thing, there's thousands and thousands, there's probably no telling how much sales tax is given to other counties where sales tax is actually higher when it should be coming here.
Like I said, that was just online purchases.
Yeah.
I think it would help us.
Yeah, it definitely would. But I don't know how you solve that. That'd be an interesting thing to look into.
Well, if you're being elected, that's your job.
I know.
Please tell me your address.
The post office.
Yeah.
Easiest thing to do would be open new post offices.
Exactly, yeah. And that was like the thing that went around a couple of years ago when they tried to shut down all the smaller voting precincts. They've done that a lot and consolidated smaller post offices. And that runs back to the same thing that he's talking about.
I'm 3 miles up the road. I'm a lot further from Mystic than I am Irwinville, but I have to go to Mystic.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Well, it's like we had a voting precinct that was actually called the Roberts Voting Precinct, and it was out here at Pinetta Church Road. Well, now I've got to drive all the way to the facility.
I have Fitzgerald address, so whatever I buy is normally in Fitzgerald.
If it's delivered to you.
Anything that I buy that's delivered, taxes go to Ben Hill.
I know fuel is that way.
Any other questions?
I like your shirt.
Thank you. Thank you.
You look official.
William, I would just challenge you, because number one, I believe you're going to be elected, we're going to go with that faith thing here, okay?
Okay.
The second thing though is being who you are when you get up there and have that influence around you, Mm-hmm.
because that influence can easily distract you
Yeah.
if you don't keep focused. And so, yeah, come back home phone, mix around home phone.
Exactly.
And be
Amen.
reminded of why you went there in the first place.
Yeah.
Listen to your people that you know.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that's brush under the rug where people don't listen to their constituents and somehow they keep getting elected.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't agree with that. I think it's time for, people to just rise up and take the elected offices that they, vote on. And we've seen that a lot locally, and we're starting to see it, statewide, a lot of grassroots campaigns, and I think it's wonderful.
We don't want to pay no more tax, any tax.
That's me too, we need to cut some that's there, let's put it in more.
They do twice as much. All that. We're taxing them, man.
You know we are.
In fact, we might have a 40% discount.
Yeah. Give us a tax abatement.
I like that. I like
Yeah, we did a tax abatement.
Mm-hmm.
I can't understand why people that gets paid with tax dollars always gets an increase in pay and we get none. We get a money for it. Bourbon County, Georgia, we don't want to spend them with tax. We've had enough of tax. You ever go to the gas station to see gas is $3.89.9? I want to know what the 9 goes to. I've always wondered where that 9 cents goes to. You won't ever see it $3.89, it'd be $3.89.9.
Yeah, well,
Think about it, 9 cents to the cent goes somewhere.
yeah. Probably the people that spring the money in the first place.
Goes somewhere.
You said people, number one concern is the economy. And many people voicing concerns over election integrity, or what's their other concern?
Yeah, that's a big thing, and, there were inefficiencies that were had in Coffee County last go around in 2020. Well, I guess that would have been, because we had midterm in 22, so that was 4 years ago now, so it's kind of a distant memory. But,
You know, that distant.
I know, yeah, look at how it's affected us. There were people that were registered Republicans that had not voted at all, and they wanted to go vote. And I know many of them that did this, and they went to vote, and they had a tabulated vote already. They said, well, who was it for? Well, look at there, they voted all the way Democrat down the whole ticket. They said, I didn't do that. So there's this line of people there at the Coffee County Registrar signing affidavits that they did not vote, and that they're voting in and just hoping that that vote is a correct vote.
And where those affidavits go? Anybody ever heard anything about that?
Yeah, who used those?
Yeah.
Who throws out the original vote? I mean, how do you do that?
That's why we should go back to paper ballots.
Yeah, but a lot of you hang checks.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand.
That way you can't fix the computer
Yeah.
to make it vote.
Yeah. And that's just like, Wyatt was saying, how many ballots did y'all audit that one year?
Nearly 500
Yeah.
on a March election, which is always going to be low turnout. We're expecting, I think you can say, 1,500 for the May election, if not more.
How many people were looking at the ballots?
6
And how long did it take?
4 hours.
Okay.
9 to 12, so 3 hours.
So that, when you vote in that paper after you print your ballot and it goes in the machine, is that what you're looking at?
When you print your ballot, you can look at it,
Mm-hmm.
and they ask you, they're supposed to ask you, does it look like what you voted for?
Yeah.
That is what we're tabulating. That's what we're counting when we audit the ballot. It's
Yeah.
on the ballot.
Yeah.
And we sum it up. And that's what
Okay.
we're in.
So you are counting that then? Okay.
So what you saying, you tabulate all the paper that comes out of that paper sheet?
That machine that you put the ballot in will give you a tentative number. That's something they can turn into the state right away. But then when you audit it, you're reading off of what's actually on the paper that you can check. So theoretically, if we audited every election fully, there is no way that there could be fraud if everybody read their ballot to make sure it wasn't wrong.
except for the day before the election. Period. You know, there's too many ballots out there.
I got 6 absentee ballots in the mail.
7 days.
Yeah, I got 3 in 2020, I think I got 3. And I went to school in Florida for a short time, and I had, it was a Florida Democratic group, and they called me and wanted me to tabulate a ballot in Florida, and I said, I don't know there anymore. And they said, oh, well, that's fine, you registered down here. And I said, no, I'm registered in Georgia, and they wanted me to vote in Florida too, so I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Lord, if anybody found out about that, I wouldn't be here right now. Yeah, that's what they want me to do. They want me to glue it all the way down.
Could depend on what school in Florida that was.
But theoretically, for Irwin County, Ethan wants to continue to do full ballot, or full audits. But it will just go, with more ballots, it's gonna take longer, but we'd like to get more people audit. And basically, you have to pair a Republican and a Democrat together. And as many pairs as you can get, they'll take their share of the ballots and count them.
So if we had 1,500 ballots, it would theoretically, even with 6 people, take a day, call it a long day. Okay.
They talked about, renting community house and setting up as many people as we can get starting out and get it through with as quick as possible. Because basically each group, if there's 5 groups, you get 1/5 the ballots to count. And you go through 80 at a time. And
Does it really matter how long it takes as long as it's accurate?
Yeah.
it doesn't have to, but you're gonna have a hard time getting people to count, and then you're gonna have a hard time getting a full count. And then you're gonna have a hard time getting that full audit that we're looking for, if you don't have some expediency, but really I'm more looking for more people than trying to get it through quick.
So just look at Florida, what they implemented after 2000. I mean, they're reporting, they got way more people that vote than we do. They're reporting 9 other elections, whatever election they did.
On the ballot in May, there's going to be a question from the Republican Party, which is not, I think, going into law, but they're asking you to vote on doing paper ballots that will be live streamed and counted the day of, if I'm not mistaken. That's how it's supposed to work. Is that right? So changing the voting system there to where you're doing the audit the day of the election, or maybe it's the day after or something. But, like I said, that's not going into effect if everybody votes for it. That's just going to be something the Republican Party is pulling us on to see if there's nothing to do.
I bet the Democratic Party has to say that.
And you were talking about cleaning up the voter rolls, like example in Florida, there's another question on changing the way the voter roll works and
Wiping the voter rolls and requiring everybody to re-register in 4 years.
Yeah.
But if we would stop
Actually, I'm not sure
the
the wiping
voter-
requirements are part of it. It just says to re-register in 4 years.
I could see that being problematic.
But that's just a question on the ballot they're polling us on. What's on that question is not necessarily how they put it in law. So that it could be a meddling opportunity. It's not a question of going to law, so it's not that hard. I've got one more thing to talk about, and then who's going? For those of you that were here last night, we're talking a little bit of a circle, just discussing maybe people have in mind, but I've got one thing I want to cover first. You have a question?
Hey, White, I have one thing to add. Mr. McCurry has a church event to go to, so when you finish your presentation, if you could allow him to have to be the first speaker, or have the opportunity, if he wants to.
You can go ahead.
I didn't mean to put your spot.
But you did.
I did. I did. I guess I got to come and on.
First thing I say, when I'm up here on the 23rd, in the McFarland auditorium there at school, there'll be a forum for everybody.
April 23rd.
When the 23rd this month, yeah. It'll be a Tuesday night, like I say, it's gonna be there at the McFarland Auditorium. I think all y'all know me, I'm Ron McCurdy, I am serving as the probate judge in Bourbon County. I have qualified to keep my office. This office will be 14 years that I've been there, and I told the people in 2010, there's 9 of us that run, and someone asked me when I was out politicking, seeing people, what I was afraid I was done. I said, I have no idea. And I did, I was just being honest. But I told them then that I would try to learn the legal side of the law, in probate, and in traffic, and put some common sense with it, and have an office I think could be proud of. And I feel like that's what I've done. I think we do have a good office, and I would like to stay there. If y'all could support me, I sure appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I, for one, appreciate your office's transparency.
And that's one thing Colonel Lady told me the other day. She said that a lot of them supporting me because she said that there's nobody can come in that office and walk back out, or either in that courtroom in front of me and walk back out, that the wasn't treated fair, honest, what those ribs for, what color it was. And, you know, my door's always open to anybody.
Thank you for what you do, Ron.
Yes, sir, we appreciate it.
Appreciate you, sir.
Ronnie, I'll even go as far as to say, it didn't go the way we wanted to, but we knew the state law was against us, but we appreciate you anyway.
Like I said,
You know, you still got my support. Okay?
like I tell you, I got to make it one.
That's right.
I can't go so far on the legal side of things.
No.
I can't please everybody, but I do the best I can.
You were fine.
You knew more about the licensing law than that trooper did, and I appreciate that.
10 more years, Ronnie, 10 more years. But if I can help anybody, like I say, door's always open. 7 days a week, you don't need me. Sheriff's Department's got my number, so when they need me on the weekend, call me. I've been called a lot of times, I don't mind. I'm here to serve the people. But it wants to be there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Ronnie, I know your office is not partisan, but do you know about the Republican town hall meeting Thursday?
Yeah.
You plan on coming? All right, that's okay. Anybody else doesn't know about that, we have a Republican town hall meeting that's supposed to be an event for all the Republican candidates this election cycle to come and speak a piece to whoever comes to listen to them. And that gives everybody an opportunity to question their candidates to make sure they're people that don't want to run and vote for.
I mean, I'd love to come up with the non-partisan office, you know, participate in it, but I will be there before if anybody.
Well, I was asking about like being someone running to get questioned, but like as a visitor. I don't think.
What is the date of that?
The 18th.
18th,
at 6. Munich.
And it's over if we can.
What time? 6.
I've got a flyer on the page. I went through this that I wrote last meeting, but a lot of you weren't here, so I'll go through it again. And it's going to leave something that is new this time. The craziness of the powers that be, or as much as you know it, the American government and corporations, has been noticed by the masses in recent years. I would say that the most important days that woke up many to the bitter truth that they are was the spring and summer of 2020, with the lockdown and the response to the riots. Next was the election, which I'm sure many of us still got questions about. But events like these, many of us have been thinking about what the best course of action for individuals to take in these circumstances might be. And as part of how we got here, these meetings were an idea I had after thinking about what the real options were. I hope we bring our community closer together and for us to stay more aware of everything going on around us. I'm happy this group has become to do just that. We've spread the word on the solar situation in the county and about the local elections coming up in just a few months. So less than that now. And some of our neighbors have stepped up to run this election. Most importantly, we're becoming a are always independent, self-sufficient, and that was the bedrock of our freedoms and liberties. Founders often talk about this. The only way that we were able to win the American Revolution was because we didn't rely on Britain. Everybody in America was a farmer, and we took care of ourselves. The only thing we relied on them for was tea. At the rate things are getting worse, I'll be honest, I strongly feel time is running out to prepare, and that things will definitely get worse before they get better. That the best defense for an individual or community to take failure of complex systems is to ensure that you don't rely on them. There are a few ways I've already mentioned that I've tried myself, but I'd like to ask anyone has any ideas on how we can become more self-sufficient rather than just as individuals. Now, as I asked that question last time, we had a conversation, and I think we've decided that we're going to start doing farmers markets sometime around these meetings, whether right before or right after or during, and we can do them here or at Scylla. There's some interest that I might actually go and be the representative for the Scylla Farmers Market. It hasn't been running like it's supposed to, because as I understand it, they would put in the infrastructure to make that go to the farmers market, and they can't find anybody to run it. So I'll need to get in contact with somebody to connect me there. But essentially, having more farmers markets will do a great deal for the community to keep us more self-sufficient as a community. You know, as William was talking about earlier with Mr. Dennis about every time you go to the store to get groceries, where's that tax dollars going to? And who are you relying on for those groceries? You're not getting your groceries in our own county, and that money's not staying in our own county. But if you're paying people that are growing food in our own county for your food, those dollars stay in our own county, and you're getting food from the county. There's a lot of gardeners around, and a lot of people started after COVID just because of the opportunity, and some of them were scared about the liability of the food system. And a lot of these people have a lot of waste, and it goes to waste. But if we can get these people connected and have farmers markets, we can exchange excess goods and be more self-sufficient and not have to rely on forces that don't have a best interest in mind. If there's any others,
Is there anybody in the community that grows meat and pork to sell?
I don't know to sell locally, but the infrastructure I understand is there. The problem is getting somebody that does grow cows and pork to sell local. There is, I understand, one butcher, Port Neutral or
Ernie Baldry out here. Ernie Baldry. Yeah.
He does. He doesn't. Well, he doesn't butcher it in Warren County. He butchers it in Houston County. But anyway, that would be acceptable. But there's a lot of potential to have resources grown in our own county, sold in our own county. Because I don't know how many people actually do need to be grown in our own county. I think Ranch Farms.
Reed Miller has to be Miller Farms. Rodney Miller, Reed Miller, they have to be, that they can do it.
Well, the farmers market was where we met him. Yeah, the Ace Farmers Market, which in a way has basically become a festival because half the vendors are not selling food or anything that a farmer would make. They're selling cake or trinkets. That's not wrong. That's not what I want to do. So, if y'all know anybody that
If you can't eat it, it ought not be sold at farmers market.
yeah.
Yeah, that's totally different.
If anybody knows anybody that has the goods, if they're growing anything or making anything like jellies or, something that would come from a farm, let them know that we're going to have farmers markets regularly. We'll be having one year old, I hope to do it every 2 weeks with meetings. And let them know they can come, they can bring what they want,
And will you put this information on the ICC page?
Okay.
And that would be on here?
We can do one here, and we can do one that's staggered, or we might switch this one to the official selling point. But I know we can Jimmy, do you know who runs or what the situation is with the farmer's market that was just built in our city?
I'm sorry, what now?
You know that new farmer's market building that they put up by Old School in our city?
Yeah, the farmer's market?
Is it being run right now?
No, I don't think so.
Who runs it?
It probably will, little later on.
Because I heard that the city or the county could not anybody run it. I don't know if that's the case.
At one time, Andy Paulk was behind that. You may want to contact him.
Okay.
No,
Shit for two separate ones. Mills have been going for several years. I think.
That's the chamber that does that, I think. And, or in conjunction with deals.
I think that was, Mr. Bill's son's name, or Mr. Bill's son was the one that came up with that.
Matt, yeah.
And then you get the parking lot and buy something on Saturday for all that junk out there.
Has anybody got any other ideas as to how we could be a little more self-sufficient as a community? Basically, when we were discussing beef earlier, how many of y'all eat beef that's raised in your town? There's a few options, but do you?
I didn't even know do beef, no, I can't.
Chicken and eggs and.
Yeah, chicken and eggs would be part of the farmer's market. And if anybody
Did
wants to
you get
start,
chickens?
get chickens, and anybody wants to start a garden, I contacted Melly Man to help me out with that if anybody is interested in starting up something like that, to be a producer themselves, to, if they need help, to let us know, and we can do what we can to help you get started, and let you know what you need to do, and teach you lessons that can be hard to learn on your own. But if there's anything else we want to discuss on that topic, that's enough for the podium, and we can just sit around and talk for the rest of it like we did last time. Do you ever want to start a discussion?